Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer, it is time for some Path of Exile, and there are builds in this game that are designed to melt enemies. There are builds that are designed to blow up your rivals and destroy them. And then there's this build, which is designed to melt your screen. It's based around bows with cast on critical strike and chain. I've stacked a few extra sources of chain and fork effects in order to just make a maximum level of projectile vomit. We're using barrage in conjunction with cast on critical strike from this bow. Now pay no attention to the craft there, the only reason that's there is because I will want to 6-link this at some point, and it's the highest tier quality upgrade that I've got. So we're using barrage in order to trigger, via the cast on critical strike gem that is built into this bow, a bunch of fireballs. Now fireballs, they don't look too ugly until you add the dragon fireball microtransaction onto them. At that point they start to really cause a mess on the screen. We're then using increased critical strike support because critical strikes are what trigger our fireballs, and then we're using fork and greater multiple projectiles. In addition to this, we have one chain that is coming from the bow itself, and then if we jump to our ascendancy, we have one additional projectile and one additional chain coming from the Deadeye ascendancy. So that's enough talking. Let's go and play around and set my screen on fire. We're not going to be very good at burning enemies, but that's fine. That means that we're going to get more and more explosions because the enemies don't die for a while. I'm deliberately not using maximum level gems because that makes the screen even uglier. And that is a Val Fireball going off there. I'll explain a little bit about the reasoning for the Val Fireball later, but fundamentally it's there for the current version of the build. It's just there as an extra button to push, but I am intending to stick a Xerfy's Heart on this build later, at which point Val Fireball will go a little bit nuts. Now with forks and chains, if you're not familiar with the mechanics, they basically cause your attacks to hit lots and lots of enemies for massive screen coverage. My damage is actually not bad when there's a bunch of enemies on the screen. It's also absolutely terrible when there's only one or two enemies, and you will see that when we get to fighting bosses. Which, trust me, you don't want to see this build fight bosses. I recorded this video earlier. I made an earlier attempt at it, but it was so bad the time that it took to kill the Arid Lake boss with no upgrades to him. I was just killing him without enraging him by breaking any of his nests. That time that it took was just unbelievable. It made the video just too long. That's Val Fireball getting set off with forks and chains and the dragon microtransaction. There's a lot of space for more area of effect on this build, and that's going to be my next goal. I mentioned Xerfy's Heart before. The purpose of Xerfy's Heart isn't so much for the combat stats that the item gives you, although they're a bonus. The main thing is that it grants you Soul Eater conditionally, and Soul Eater causes you to gain an enormous amount of increased area of effect once you can build up a large number of souls that you've consumed. So having that Soul Eater going will then, and also you can do this with a Headhunter as well. Just Headhunter's something like 40 times the price of Soul Eater. Well, it does work better if you own one. Ew, that was a really ugly bunch of monsters there. In any case, I can't even be bothered opening the Abyss, so I just wanted to complete it. Here's the Legion encounter. This will give you another sense of what this build is incapable of. Lots of garbage going all over the screen. Not much damage at all. Very little damage, in fact. But we're starting to see a little bit here. Where we've got lots of monsters, Well, I'll just get out of there first before talking. As long as my forks are able to hit things, then they start chaining. It's the interaction of fork and chain is that a projectile uses up all of its pierces before using any of its forks. It then uses, so for that reason I have absolutely no piercing on this build. It then uses up all of its forks before it chains. In fact, things can only ever fork once. And when a fork goes off, it consumes the projectile, and then causes 2 copies of that projectile to be created that then fire out. You can sort of see it there. It is more clear when you're using slower projectiles, which is a bit difficult on a Deadeye because your ascendancy comes with 30% more projectile speed. In any case, this build is not going to be tearing up the metagame, but it will be tearing up monitors. And if you want to be a really horrible person, and please don't do this, you can always take it into public parties. So if someone's, say, doing a sulfite rotation and you just want to be an arsehole, you can join it and then just start melting people's graphics cards. I'm not even going to attempt the boss in this because it takes so damn long. But at this point, I want to show it off in the Delve Mines because the Delve Mines are a great place to demonstrate bad but flashy and builds with lots of screen effects. There's something about the frost biome in the Delve Mines that just makes everything seem so bright in it. So for that reason, I'm going to take a really easy delve that is in a frost biome in the Azurite Mine, and we're just going to go for a nice little walk with all the bright, pretty lights of this area. And there we go. Boom, 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 boom. What I do need to get for this build, there's a number of items I need to get for it to actually, well, shine is the wrong word. Actually, no, shine is exactly the right word. It's just people think, when you say shine, people think you mean it in a colloquial sense, but no, I actually mean shine in the sense of let out a blinding amount of light here. The items that I need to pick up a diamond flask of the Order. This is a Katarina exclusive craft that I haven't got my hands on because this build was leveled as a Herald of Agony character rather than as a... oh shit, a lot of damage there. I should just get these monsters under control first, then talk. Forget how rough Exiles can be when you're playing an absolutely terrible build. Much more fun though. This fight's actually been, despite being very, very low level, this fight has actually been a lot of fun. I'd be better off without Fork in this encounter. In fact, if I'd realised it was going to be the Exile one, I might have put slower projectiles in. I sometimes swap around. I have slower projectiles as an alternative to Fork support, and I have chain as an alternative for Fork support when I want to be really silly. In any case, that's all there is really to this build. In terms of the upgrades that it needs to pick up a Xerfy's Heart for more area, or conditional area, and it needs to pick up a 6th link, at which point it may actually start being able to do some damage. It needs the Vile Fireball to be fully leveled, and there's a number of other upgrades that could be made. But in any case, it's not going to be tearing up the meta, but it has been a lot of fun. If you've got any questions, fire away below. I won't share a passive tree yet, because the passive tree needs more work. That'll come later.